Saudi Arabia's leaders have formed a new military coalition of 34 nations that aims to fight terrorism, in their words, militarily and ideologically. The new alliance will fight armed groups in Iraq, Syria, Libya, Egypt, and Afghanistan, and will see Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey work together. But Saudi Arabia's main regional rival, Iran, is not part of the coalition. Iraq and Syria are also excluded, despite their common enemy, Daesh. Oman is also excluded. The Gulf state abstained from joining the other Saudi-led military coalition against Houthis in Yemen. But new players joining the fight include Asian countries like Pakistan and Malaysia, and African countries including Nigeria. And a U.S.-led coalition against Daesh and a Russian campaign working together with Iran, Iraq, and Syria are also operating simultaneously in the region, making this the third major military alliance in the region. For more on the story, we're joined now by Gulnur Aybet. She's the head of the Department of Political Science and International Relations here in Istanbul at Bahçeşehir University. Gulnur, great to have you on set once again. If Daesh is the common enemy here, why has Iran and countries like Syria and Iraq, who are the center of this, not been included?
Well, because Saudi Arabia has actually called for this meeting and hosted it, and it's been inspired by the Organization for Islamic Cooperation to bring together some kind of united Islamic countries front against the fight against terror. I think time-wise, it's quite significant in the sense that there's been this correlation very wrongly associating Islam and terrorism, especially since Daesh really made it center stage. And I think for Islamic countries in the region to take ownership of the fight against terror is quite significant. But on the other hand, of course, the limitations are with Iran and Saudi Arabia being such rivals that Iran's not in this, and Oman, of course, has abstained. So, rather than, we have to look at who's in this coalition. It's quite a big coalition of 34 countries, but also focus on who's not in it. But also, you mentioned that, it's against Daesh. It's not just against Daesh. I think, that there's also, from reading the sort of press statement, I'm getting this, feeling from the whole thing that it's also designed to augment, if you like, and also enhance the US-led coalition in a way, but also to step a little aside from it and say, this is a group of countries that are against terrorism in the wider context. It's not just a narrow coalition only focusing on Daesh in Syria and Iraq. This is a coalition that's focused on a wider definition of terrorism. I think it's also very significant that there's so many African countries in there. So I suppose what they're thinking about is, the future down the road, potential instability in North Africa. For example, spillovers from the vacuum in Libya, occasionally seeing more sporadic ISIS or Al-Qaeda spin-offs appearing in places like Tunisia. Now
we have Nigeria on board, possibly with Boko
Nigeria,
Haram.
of course, I was going to say, yeah, Boko Haram as well. So, it's a much wider dimension and some kind of regional responsibility. But I think it would also be wrong to view this as a solely military coalition as such. I think in the military aspect, they will probably log in with the existing US-led coalition. Some parts of it, I think, not all, because it's a lot of countries, 34. But in a wider context, we also have to look at what this coalition can do in terms of tapping into and disrupting international networks, transnational networks that terrorist groups feed off. And particularly, I think it's very significant that it's come on the heels or the same time as the EU Council meeting in Brussels, where the main agenda is terrorism financing. And Turkey's attending that meeting, but they're also part of this 34 countries Islamic coalition. So I think in terms of looking at it from Turkey's dimension also, it's very significant that there is, this is part of a broader effort to try to disrupt those networks. So I think that was one of the main things that this coalition is aiming to do.
All right.
Yeah.
Gulnur Aybet, we thank you for that analysis.
Thank you.